Isn't that like the scary sound that they always make in like the horror films? I feel like we're getting closer to Halloween, but what we're extra close to is another episode of Tech Talk Tuesday. And I'm Matt. I'm still Matt. Look, that just proves that I'm Matt. You can't just put labels on people. Will you, our producers are telling us that you can actually just put labels on people. Joined always, except for the one time, Neil Tardy. How are you doing today, Neil?
I am great today.
Yeah, just today though.
Just today. Yesterday, not great. Today, I am doing very well.
Very, very cool. And you know what? Let's just jump right into it. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. So the first thing we have today is the ongoing saga that is Apple and Epic's battle in courts. So this was heard by a judge in the Northern District of California, and apparently she is not very impressed with Epic's defense here, really. So if you're just catching up with this whole saga, Epic released an in-game store that bypasses Apple's store. That way they don't have to pay any of Apple's fees. Makes a lot of sense from Epic's perspective.
Monetarily.
And Epic is really trying to argue that by bundling their app store and their in-app purchases, Apple is violating antitrust laws. So that's really like the bulk of Epic's whole argument here. But the judge here was like very much so like, what are you guys talking about? This is a very established thing. Like Nintendo has a walled garden, Sony has a walled garden, Microsoft. And so like what Apple's doing here is very much so an industry standard. Now I think Epic would argue that like this shouldn't be the industry standard, but I think if the shoe was on the other foot, they would be like, "Oh, this is the industry standard, right?" So this could still go to trial. The judge actually recommended that this goes to a jury trial. That way, real people can actually weigh in on this and have an opinion. So this is continues to move along. There have been some other large companies coming in and kind of siding with Epic here, such as Spotify, Tile, and Match Group. They actually created a coalition for app fairness. So what they want to do is they want to defend the fundamental rights of creators to build apps and to do business directly with their customers. Which all sounds great, particularly from like where we sit, right? As small developers, like, yeah, we want to go directly to the customer and not have to have a middleman take a cut, right? It sounds good, but again, this is an industry standard that we've been kind of dealing with since like the dawn of the industry, right? It sounds like the Judge Rogers here was not particularly rated by Epic. So it sounds like Epic, like we all thought, has a very uphill battle here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this has definitely been going on for a while. This is nothing new. I don't like the argument that it shouldn't be the industry standard, because I think you can go down a pretty slippery slope in trying to think through, okay, what, I don't know, how much control do you really want? Ultimately, right, the government really is what we're saying is you want the government to intervene and say that you have to, play nice with everybody. And, these companies spend a lot of money, right? So you look at Apple, Google, you look at handset manufacturers, you look at game console developers, right? So they're, hot topic with PlayStation coming out and then the new Xbox. Like a lot of money is funneled in, sometimes at a loss, for these consoles and stuff that play games. And I think it's interesting that the way that they recoup that is often by then charging kind of a toll, right, to be on their really high-end machines that they've asked people to pay for, and that they've made a ubiquitous name kind of in gaming and really in electronics. And then to come in later and say, well, we want to go around that. Man, it really feels slimy, honestly. because I've tried to put myself in their shoes. If I created something and it went kind of gangbusters, and really the only way for me to then kind of maintain that is by kind of charging a toll on these things, and then somebody wants to get around it. And this actually happened. It's interesting. There was some case law around this with Nintendo, back with like the NES.
Yep.
So they were requiring people to kind of create cartridges, and you had to go through their process and stamp it. Now, what's interesting is that Tecmo kind of released like a football game, and there was a few other kind of games that they basically flipped the bird to Nintendo and went out and made. And ultimately, that didn't go very well for Nintendo. So it's really interesting that we've seen both sides of this, right? So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. The selfish part of me, yes, wants to say, man, it'd be really cool if we had kind of equal access and things like that. However, I think Epic's also talking out of both sides of their mouth here. They're certainly not allowing Matt and Neil to go out and open up a Fortnite coin store or whatever, and basically mint, the currency and stuff that they use then to buy in-game stuff, which is effectively what they're asking to do, right? Is to mint their own currency and with no kind of repercussions or involvement for the platform. So I don't know. It feels a little shade ball, but and I'm really glad to see that the judge is at least kind of coming out and making a comment that I tend to agree with on this.
Yeah, and I mean, like, let's be really clear too. Like, Epic, in order to have an app on the App Store, has to sign a contract, right? Like, you agree to their terms of service. Like, this is very clearly against their team's terms of service. Rob, I don't know if that's actually true. But yeah, I mean, they very clearly had to sign something or accept the terms of service, and then they just went and said, well, screw that. And so, yeah, I mean, it just feels like they're not going to get very far, like we've said with this. But who knows? Maybe there's some precedent somewhere that they can get away with, but I'm just not super convinced that that's going to happen.
Well, probably watching with bated breath is Amazon, who just launched their new service called Luna. This is all kind of a cloud-based service. What's really cool about this is you can literally buy a controller, hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and it streams then directly with your TV and streams directly like the gameplay back to their cloud servers to reduce the latency. I think that's awesome. And I want to see it in practice, which means I'll probably be getting one of these, especially since during this introductory period where they really want to get people on. They're not wanting to call it beta testing, but they're beta testing this service. It's like $6 a month, right? Which is something that, is just not a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, and you don't have to use that specific controller. There's other ones that are compatible and stuff with it, but they actually make one that then is low latency. But the idea is that they want to make this available on pretty much every platform that you can think of, minus gaming consoles that are more traditional. So we're talking PC, Mac, Fire TV, the iPhone, the iPad. And they're really doing some of this through web apps, which I think is tremendous and says a lot about really what we're able to accomplish then on the web that was really unfathomable before. So, but I bet they're paying close attention to kind of how these things go down, because their initial library, I mean, when you kind of look through these games, it's a small subset, but they're talking big studios that they're wanting to bring on. And if those studios start to capitulate and say, we want to go around your payment platforms, and Amazon certainly knows a thing or two about kind of cloud storage and payment platforms. And
what do you mean?
the crack that is Amazon.com. But it'd be interesting to see kind of how all this intertwines. I for one, am actually pretty excited about this. I would love to never buy another console ever again. I don't think it's realistic, but who knows? I mean, again, if you think of a company that's able to do it, and who has the most computing power probably here, at least in the US, if not the world, I mean, man, it's Amazon with AWS.
Yeah, so Google actually has a competitor with this that they launched probably a year ago now called Google Stadia. And so, like, obviously, if you're a hardcore gamer and like you need low for things, like this is not this like it's just not like you can. There will always be more latency with this than like you being hardwired into your internet. Like that's just the case that will always be the case. There is no way around that, right?
Sure.
So this is more towards like casual people who like when they have some time, they want to just be able to hook into this and play, right? Like they don't want to yes, definitely more money.
Oh man, did I lose Neil? The irony is that more money led to the fall of Neil Tardy. Like that's just sad, isn't it? I gotta agree with Logan on this, and I guess while we wait for to Neil, see if Neil will rejoin. Yeah, I think this is huge, but he's right. There's casual gaming is, I mean, this is a prime example, right, of things that can happen that totally disrupt anything that's kind of an internet connected service, and just how disruptive it can be. So I find that fascinating. But I am probably more of a casual gamer. I'm one of those casual encounters. No, I don't think that's the same thing. I don't think that's what Craigslist had when they were talking about casual encounters. But I like to play games every now and then, but I'm definitely not a hardcore gamer. I gave that up when I gave up acne. I don't know. You kind of take it for what you want to, but I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys. I know that there's a few of you on. Would you use something like this, like an internet connected service? And would that be something that's interested in you versus going out and buying like the next Xbox or something like that, if that's even something you would do? Welcome back, Neil.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my internet just dropped there briefly, and
that was the irony of it. Like you're talking about latency and you're talking about things going wrong, and I'm like, here's a prime example.
Yeah, so I mean, like I was trying to say, like this keeps you from being on the hook for like a $500 like Xbox Series X or something like that. So yeah, I mean, this could be a very good thing for casual gamers, right? Do I see myself getting it? Maybe only just to like dabble with it and see how good it is. But I don't think that I'll be doing this long term.
Yeah. So I asked if anyone would be interested in kind of doing this. The people that are watching, and Rob, it's good to see you on. But yeah, so I mean, there's definitely some room for this. Logan's chiming in.
Yeah, I think like a big thing with these platforms is that they have to have the games to be able to back this up, right? So like I think they're starting with like 100 games on this.
Yeah, not a lot.
Which I mean, depending on what 100 games that is, like that could be more than enough to get this off the ground and moving, right?
But variants. There's 50 variants of Pac-Man. I'm just kidding. I made that.
Right. But it sounds like they're already like partnering with Ubisoft. So there's a bunch of games there that you can play with Ubisoft. If they can get other companies on board here, yeah, I mean, this could be pretty big. And then like, let's not forget Amazon is doing a bunch of stuff with their own like game developers too. So yeah, with like Crucible and New World, which is pretty cool. So
and perhaps someday they'll actually release one of those games. Ooh, I'm throwing down some fire on them. So yeah, you know what's not a game, Neil?
Space travel? Question mark.
I'm into it. I like where you were going with it, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so this is really interesting too. So obviously NASA is working in conjunction with a lot of private companies right now, like SpaceX in particular, to kind of try and push space travel forward, make it more affordable, and everything else. But one of the big challenges that they face is powering an actual station or really anything for extended amounts of times on the moon, because the moon can actually have cycles of a couple weeks, actually, which I didn't know, that are just dark. So traditional solar will not actually work for this purpose, which I find very fascinating. So this is something that they're actually crowdsourcing out, so it's partnering with a company called HeroX for the crowdsourcing challenge, and it's up to $5 million in total prizes. So yeah, it's really, really neat. There's going to be 3 phases of the challenge, which starts with people just creating a solution, like not even a prototype, just like, hey, this could theoretically work, right? So that's like the first phase, and there'll be 3 winners of that activity that can earn $100K each. So like that's nothing to frown at, right? And then then there'll be as many as 4 runners up, which can get half that each. So great prize money there. And then phase 2 will be asking everyone to develop prototypes for this. And they'll be handing out the majority of their money there, with the remaining 4.5 million being handed out there. And then if one or more of the companies actually reach the third phase, they'll be teaming with NASA to actually build the hardware to actually like go out and try this like on a mission, which is really, really dope. Super, super cool. And I love that NASA's looking for creative ways to solve problems, and that they don't have the time or the money to be able to do this, but they do have enough that they can crowdsource some of this work to bring other people, get other people excited, get U.S. people and citizens excited about space travel again, because I feel like that's been missing for a long, long time.
Did you just say make space travel great again? Anyway,
oh gosh.
So yeah, no, I think this is really interesting. I'm wondering how much it would take for us to develop a prototype for cold fusion. I don't think anyone's ever tried that before.
Never.
Yeah, it's going to be so cool. I'm also really impressed. Sorry, and this is so childish of me, but this guy's name is John Fingas. That's probably not even how you pronounce his last name, but I'm like, Fingas. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of fun for me. It's also kind of interesting that there's a lot of space stories that actually came out this week. They were talking about the underground lakes on Mars and like.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of activity. There was some kind of commentary. There's some stuff about Space Force, which still seems funny to me, but that's fine. It makes a better Netflix series than it does a unit of our defense, I think. But hey, that's fine. But yeah, I think this is really cool. And I like, anytime that we get really used to in any industry of being the smartest people in the room, right? And I think anytime they can take kind of DARPA's approach and turn around and say, you know what, let's see what's out there and what can we latch onto, what can we iterate upon, and then I don't know. This particular challenge is going to be kind of fascinating because it really means a lot, not only for moon missions, but I think it means a lot really for life in general, right? I mean, we're talking about powering to some degree in some really crazy conditions. And again, I mean, a lot of times these kinds of challenges end up with some really cool products that then find their way back into the kind of the commercial market. And I mean, Tang, right? Like, I mean, I just
yeah.
I was about to announce that I love me some Tang, but then I realized that probably, and I just did it anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Well, before Matt continues to put his foot in his mouth, yeah, we're just gonna end it there. So thank you everyone for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on anything that we discussed today, you can find all of the articles in the description below. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a subscribe. That way you don't miss any future editions of Tech Talk Tuesday, because because you know that you want to hear more about Matt loving that Tang. And so go ahead and go ahead and get subscribed to us. We have this cool new overlay that we've been talking about doing forever. So you can find Matt and I's Twitter handles below. His is the Matt Ray, because there's only one Matt Ray, and it is him. And mine's just Neil Tardy. Very plain, very simple, and boring. But yeah, so tell your friends, because we love all the we love all the interaction that we got today, and we think that it'll make a better stream. So yeah, yes, you can read up on Tang there. I promise you / not promise you that it may or may not be there.
That was so non-committal. I loved it.
Oh, I know. I've gotten very good at that. But yeah, with that, thank you all for joining us again, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
I don't even care. I love me some Tang. The orange drink, don't make it weird.
Yeah, you made it weird.